Hey everyone, today I'm building a clone base for the 501st Legion in 2 days, and I have a buddy over to help me. It's been a little since I've built a clone base, so this is going to be very fun to get back into it. So without further ado, let's get building. So first we started with the structure of the clone base and finding out what shape we wanted it to be. So first we started with a big square in the middle, and then we expanded to the left and right, adding basically a room on each side. So by adding those two sections on each side, it made the build look a little bit more interesting rather than the clone base just being a big square. But we just continued to build up the structure of the base. So I wanted to do at least one layer of dark bluish gray bricks around the whole base to add a little bit of color variation. Once the actual base structure was done, we started adding some exterior details to the structure, like having slopes with brick pieces rising up just for some added exterior detail. So I was giving the walls a little bit of a castle feel with how the, medieval castle walls looked a little bit, and I wanted to do that for the midsection throughout this base. And I tiled off everything so it had a smooth look. So for day 2, my buddy had left, so I wanted to actually add a roof to each side section rather than it just all be open, because it makes sense that a open base would have some closed sections still. So I was building up the roofs for each side section and making sure to add tiles and plates so they were all covered. I tiled majority of the roofs, but I left a section with studs on top so that I could put a layer of bricks around the perimeter. And I finished adding the castle wall style to the section hallways leading to each room. Once it was done, it was time to add the bricks to the perimeter of each roof. I added 2 1x8 dark red tiles to each side of each roof just to add a little bit of red for the Republic colors, and then I tiled the rest off with dark bluish gray plates / tiles. Now for the interior of the base, I basically broke up the midsection into 4 sections. So the top right is going to be a command center, and I elevated it. I did it so the whole midsection wasn't flat. It is very cool to build stairs leading up to a platform. It's starting to become one of my favorite things to do in clone bases. Left side, as you've seen in the video already, was going to be 2 swamp speeders essentially from the 332nd battle pack, but in the 501st colors, and I made sure to tile off the left side, but I wanted there to be dark bluish gray tile to signify, that this is a speeder area. Both speeders fit perfectly there. Now the main thing to do right now was just to tile off the entire interior, adding numerous plates. In the right hand section, I wanted there to be a bunch of troopers, so I added a mix of plates and tiles. So I started with the right section first, which was going to be an armory, and I had a dark bluish gray section where I wanted there to be a table. And then the left section, I wanted it to be a med bay. I had never built a med bay before, and I've built armories and cafeterias, but I wanted to try something new with the med bay. Once I was done with the base structure and all the tiles, I started with the outside. I wanted to do a grass planet. To do 1 plant piece throughout the build, it was kind of just a 3-stemmed, and I wanted to put 3 trees, some trees that I've used before. It just consists of a bunch of leaf pieces put together on some brick modified pieces stacking up. It's one of my favorite Lego tree designs that you can make. I did that for each corner of the base, just layered plant pieces with the trees in different places. So once the outside was done, the last thing to do was just to add all the base accessories and the minifigures. So I started with the armory and then did the command center, then the med bay, and then the very last thing to do is to put all the minifigures. This is one of my favorite parts because you can just put the minifigures in different poses and have them do different things. I really wanted to fill out this entire base, not leave one section empty. Here is the finished 501st clone base. On the outside, you can see the closer look of the trees and the plant formations on each side. I made sure to add a lot of them so that it covers up most of the grass, and then I placed the trees in different sections and slightly different places so that there was a little variation in the look. On the front of the base, there are some tiles on the exterior just for some detail, and then the doorway has an arch design. There are 3 501st clones going out on patrol to see if there's any separatist activity. So on the left side of the main part of the base is just a supply corner with a bunch of supply crates and 2 clones going to get some supplies. And then the left is 2 fuel canisters to fuel up the speeders. And then here are where the speeders are kept, and there's some clones working on them, checking their diagnostics. And then I added some floor lights to signify that this is a speeder bay, and I just took them from the Yavin 4 base. I've never had a use for these essentially swamp speeders, although these are from Mandalore, so they're not really swamp speeders, I guess. But these type of speeders, so finally, having a use for them in a mock is just very great, and I love using clone vehicles now, and I really want to incorporate more in some future mocks. And especially with them being a smaller size, it works for the size of the base. And And then here is the elevated command center with 3 screens and a couple of clones using some control panels. There's not much activity on the planet, so there's not many minifigures over here. Using the bottom of a lever piece, essentially the base, to hold up the screens is just one of my favorite techniques to use. And then finally in this corner are 12 501st Troopers with Captain Rex in front giving a speech and motivating them. And then on each side I also did the doorway design so it wasn't just a flat wall. And then this right section is the armory. I just added various generators on here, and then I just added some greebling around this generator. In the armory on this side is the table with a blaster and 2 thermal detonators laid out with the clone trooper taking inventory, and then in the corner is a crate with a big minigun for the clones to use, and there's another crate right there. On the other side are 3 weapon racks with numerous blasters, and 2 blasters are taken with one of them being on the table and on the clone trooper's back. This rack is just free flowing so I could have it at an angle. And then on the other side is the med bay, and on top I did a different variation of generators, and there's some vents as well. So in the back are 2 control panels for data and, of the patients, and then there's some crates for supplies. On this side on the wall is just a white and red marking to signify it's the med bay. And then right there is a small container of Bacta. And then on the other side are 2 beds with an injured clone trooper laying in one of them. For each roof, I just wanted to add some greebling accessories using these like dispenser pieces on both sides because I want to create different variations of generators each time rather than reusing. I do reuse some of them, but every time I do want to add a little bit something different. And then here's a closer look at some of the wall detail, and I added a red tile as well for some more color. And then same with the other side. These clones here are just continuing regular duty. There have been no separatist activity at all, but Captain Rex decided to visit this base to check on the troopers, but the clones are sending out a patrol to see if there's any weird activity on this planet. I'm really happy on how this base came out, definitely trying something new in terms of the design with the, castle look, and having the 2 sections on each side gives it a very, unique shape, and so I'm very happy on how it came out. Building clone bases is one of my favorite things to do because there's just so many different looks and designs. I always aim to make my next clone base different from the previous, and so like I said, I'm very happy on how this came out, trying a new design, and I look forward to building more Clone Wars mocks. That was my clone base. I hope you enjoyed the video. Definitely lightsaber slash that like button and hit subscribe. I hope you all have a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace.